I just want to talk a little bit about how I believe taking action on climate is consistent with conservative principles. My understanding of conservative principles, and I'm a progressive, but my understanding of conservative principles are basically that you value incrementalism, that you understand the importance of institutions, that you try to move slowly where possible, that you try not to make radical changes to communities or societies or organizations unless it is absolutely necessary. And there is no more radical change that we could make to our economy, to our physical environment, to our communities, to our government, than to allow climate change to move forward. So it seems to me that what the senator is saying is exactly right. There are plenty of conservatives who are prepared to take action in this area. Right now, what we need is a Republican dance partner. And I think we have them. I think there are those who understand and may have quiet conversations with us and nod and agree that the situation is getting increasingly dire and increasingly real and scientifically based in fact, but they don't want to be the first one caught making sense. They don't want to be putting themselves at the tip of that spear. So one of the reasons that we are here tonight is to hopefully galvanize the American public to go back to their more reasonable Republican members and say, remember when you said you would be a middle-of-the-road Republican? This is the way to demonstrate that you are a middle-of-the-road Republican. This is the way to demonstrate that you are a true moderate. When the Department of Defense is saying this is a real strategic challenge, this is not the province of the League of Conservation Voters anymore. I love them. But listen, this is beyond conservation organizations. This is beyond my particular passion for Hawaii's environment. This is about the future of the United States of America and our economic viability. And so there are going to be Republican dance partners, but we all, not just as a Senate, but as a country, have to create a political environment in which they can operate with us and we can get to 60 votes. We don't have those votes right now. But as the senator from Rhode Island said, it always looks more difficult than it is, and it's always impossible until you get it done. And that's what this is about tonight.
And here's a fairly well-known Republican conservationist, indeed, perhaps the greatest conservationist president in American history, Theodore Roosevelt, a Republican. He had two very important characteristics that there is no reason the Republican Party should not be following today. One was he cared about America as a physical and spiritual space. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't just about who could make money buying and selling what, who could make money extracting this or doing the other. He cared about America as a physical and a spiritual place. He would go out and camp in the forests with John Muir to get the experience and to embody the value of America as a physical and a spiritual space. So that was one characteristic that was very important. And here's the other one. He was willing to stick up against the big money. He was willing to tell the big money, basically, I'm against you. I'm willing to have a fight with you. The fact that you are big money is not alone enough for your argument to prevail with me. He went after the big trusts, and he stuck up for the little guy against the big money. There is nothing that says the Republican Party couldn't do that again, although right now, that is not their situation. I mentioned earlier how we have a former Republican presidential candidate who campaigned on climate change, how we have a Republican senator who is a co-sponsor of a climate fee bill, how we have a Republican senator who voted for Waxman Markey when he was in the House, how we have Republican senators who have spoken for carbon fee. All of that happened before 2010. What happened in 2010 that drove every Republican back underground on this issue? I'll tell you what happened. The United States Supreme Court decided a case called Citizens united. And the instant they decided Citizens United, the Koch brothers and the big polluters put enormous amounts of money into elections. And they didn't just put the money into elections between Republicans and Democrats, they put money into elections between Republicans and Republicans. They went into primary elections. And they went after Republicans who were not consistent with their orthodoxy on climate change. Unless you were a denier, they either punished you or threatened you. And since that time, that's why there's been silence on the Republican side. It's not because there's not a tradition of Republicans caring about the environment. The Environment Protection Agency was established by a Republican president. Theodore Roosevelt was our greatest conservationist. There is a Republican tradition of this. There's a Republican tradition of standing up to the big money and sticking up for regular people, but not since Citizens United, not since that baleful decision cast an absolute avalanche of dark money, of unlimited money and anonymous money into the elections. And I'll talk more about that later, but that is what the problem has been. And the only thing that it takes to cure that is for the Republican Party to become more worried about the reality of climate change and the opinion of the American public than they are about the Koch brothers' millions and what's going to be spent against them. And if the American public makes it clear in the coming months that they are tired of Congress being stuck, if the American public decides that it is time to wake up here in Congress, then the choice really becomes inevitable. As the senator from Hawaii said, the dance partners on the Republican side have to come off the wall and come back onto the dance floor